The dismembered bodies of the Tharsian rebels lay strewn across the blood-soaked ground, still smoldering from the heat of the plasma blasts that had torn them apart. Lord Zarek, the despotic Daxamite tyrant who ruled over the Tharsis system with an iron fist, stood overlooking the carnage with a satisfied sneer on his face. He had crushed this fledgling rebellion swiftly and brutally, slaughtering not only the insurgents, but also any civilian populations suspected of aiding them. The charred corpses of the rebel leaders now hung in the public square, a grim warning to any who dared defy his absolute rule. Zarek believed his dominion was now unassailable, but a report soon reached him that made the tyrant tremble with both rage and fear. Humans, a newly spacefaring species rumored to be tenacious warriors, had made secret contact with rebel survivors. Though the humans were few in number and lightly equipped compared to his vast armies, they brought advanced weapons and tactical knowledge that could reignite the flames of insurrection across his empire. If news spread that humans now aided the rebels, it could inspire uprisings on dozens of subjugated worlds. Zarek would not let that happen. He summoned his most merciless enforcer, the cyborg General Krax, and gave him a single directive: hunt down the humans and eradicate every last trace of the rebellion, no matter the cost. Light years away on Earth, battle-hardened veteran Captain Stephen Turner of the United Earth Armed Forces received his orders. He was to lead an elite special operations team to infiltrate Tharsis, link up with the resistance, and help overthrow the tyrant. Though outgunned and up against a powerful empire, Turner and his soldiers relished the chance to demonstrate humanity's martial prowess on the galactic stage and inspire the oppressed to rise up. Failure was not an option. Joining forces with battle-scarred Tharsian rebel Sagan, one of the few to survive Zarek's purge, the humans hatch a daring plan: seize a shipment of the tyrant's own advanced plasma weapons, capture his top lieutenant for critical intel, and ignite a system-wide conflagration to incinerate the roots of Zarek's rule. The first shots of the war are about to be fired. With the aid of Earth's dauntless warriors, the rebels finally have a fighting chance. But Zarek will unleash every weapon in his arsenal to crush this threat to his dominion. On the blood-soaked soil of Tharsis, a new legend will soon be forged in the crucible of war. In a hidden rebel encampment deep within the twisting canyons of Tharsis, Captain Turner gathered his team of human commandos and Tharsian resistance fighters. The air crackled with tension as they prepared for their next critical mission: infiltrating a notorious black site prison to rescue a high-value prisoner and capture Zarek's brutal Lieutenant Malvik. Turner pored over holographic schematics of the prison complex, his brow furrowed in concentration. Sagan, the battle-hardened rebel leader, pointed to a heavily fortified section of the map. Intel suggests they're holding the prisoner here, in the maximum security wing. Sergeant Rollins, Turner's right-hand man, leaned forward to study the projection. Place looks like a damn fortress. We'll need to hit hard and fast. Grox, the hulking alien mercenary, grunted in agreement. My sources say Malvik arrives tomorrow at dusk for the interrogation. We'll have a narrow window to snatch him and the prisoner. Turner nodded grimly. Then let's make it count. Rollins, prep the cloaking tech and breaching charges. Sagan, select your best fighters for the infiltration team. Grox, see if your contacts can scrounge up any blueprints or guard rosters. As the group dispersed to make ready, Turner pulled Sagan aside. This prison break could be a major turning point. If we grab Malvik and pump him for intel on Zarek's operation, we might finally have a shot at hitting that bastard where it hurts. Sagan's eyes gleamed with a hardened dedication. My people have suffered for too long under that tyrant's boot. You've given us a taste of real hope, Captain. With your weapons and tactics, we can light the spark of revolution across Tharsis. Turner clasped the alien's shoulder. Humanity stands with you. We'll show Zarek the true meaning of resilience and defiance. This is only the beginning. Deep in the heart of Zarek's stronghold, General Krax seethed as he received news of the rebels' brazen convoy ambush. The cyborg clenched his metal fists, servo motors whining. They dare strike at the lifeblood of our empire. These humans are a vexing pest we must expunge. Krax turned to a towering holographic display showing the movements of his hunter-killer teams scouring the canyons. "Flush them out," he snarled to his subordinates. "Pursue them to the ends of this miserable planet if you must. I want those weapons recovered and the rebels' corpses laid at Zarek's feet." As Turner and his team made their final preparations for the prison raid, reports filtered in of Krax's search parties closing in on their location. The noose was tightening, but the humans and rebels remained undaunted. They had tasted their first blood and were hungry for more. The die had been cast. There could be no turning back from the war for Tharsis' freedom. In the brooding silence before the mission, Turner reflected on the path that had led him to this alien world, this pivotal moment. Earth had granted him the honor of representing humanity on a galactic stage, of demonstrating their strength and tenacity to an oppressed people yearning to breathe free. The legacy of this campaign would echo far beyond Tharsis, inspiring whispers of human valor on 100 subjugated worlds. The road ahead would be bathed in blood and shrouded in uncertainty, but Turner and his soldiers would gladly pay any price, shoulder any burden, to see liberty's light kindled across the stars. For now, all thoughts turned to the daring prison break that would propel their resistance to new heights, or consign them to oblivion beneath the tyrant's vengeful fist. The distant whine of sirens pierced the night as Captain Turner and his team approached the Black Site prison. Cloaked in stolen Tharsian security uniforms, they marched a group of shackled prisoners, actually disguised rebel fighters, towards the main gate. Turner's pulse quickened as they neared the checkpoint. He gripped the datapad containing their forged credentials, praying the access codes held up under scrutiny. A hulking guard emerged from the gatehouse, mandibles clicking as he examined their documents. "Transfer from Outpost 9, Turner grunted, mimicking the gruff Tharsian accent. "New batch for processing." The guard's compound eyes narrowed, but after an agonizing moment, he nodded and waved them through. Turner exhaled slowly as they entered the sprawling prison complex. Phase 1 complete. Once inside, Turner glanced at Sergeant Rollins and gave an imperceptible nod. Rollins peeled off with half the team, heading for the maximum security wing. Turner led the rest towards the power distribution hub. They reached a maintenance access panel, and Turner swiftly interfaced his hacked datapad with the prison systems. His fingers flew across the screen as he uploaded a virus to sabotage the power grid. Moments later, the facility plunged into darkness. Alarms blared as emergency generators sputtered to life. In the chaos, Turner and his squad shed their disguises and armed themselves. "Move out," he ordered. "Find Malvik." They fought their way through panicked guards and malfunctioning security doors. Turner's enhanced targeting systems made short work of any resistance, his plasma rifle leaving smoldering corpses in his wake. Sagan appeared at his side, alien features set in a determined scowl. "I've accessed the security feeds," he reported. "Malvik's holed up in the command bunker. This way." They raced through twisting corridors, the sounds of battle echoing from distant sections of the prison. Turner's comm crackled to life. Rollins reporting success in liberating the VIP prisoner. Good. Now for Malvik. They reached the sealed blast doors of the command center. Turner planted breaching charges as Sagan provided cover fire against approaching security forces. The explosion rocked the facility, and they stormed inside, only to find the room empty. "Damn it," Turner snarled, scanning the room. His eyes fell on a hidden access panel. "There, secret tunnel. He's running." They pursued Malvik into the bowels of the prison, descending into twisting catacombs. The passageway opened into a vast underground hangar, and Turner caught a glimpse of their quarry sprinting towards a sleek shuttle. "Stop!" Turner roared, opening fire. Malvik dove for cover, returning shots with a wicked-looking sidearm. Energy bolts sizzled past Turner's head as he closed the distance. With inhuman speed, Malvik lunged at Turner, augmented fists slamming into his chest. The captain staggered back, ribs creaking. But he'd faced worse. As Malvik wound up for another blow, Turner struck, a precise nerve strike to a cluster of ganglia at the base of the alien's throat. Malvik's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed in a heap. Turner wasted no time in restraining the unconscious lieutenant. "Rollins, we've got him," Turner barked into his comm. "Fall back to the extraction point." He turned to Sagan. "Think you can fly this thing?" The Tharsian rebel grinned, mandibles spread wide. "Watch me." Minutes later, they blasted out of the facility in the stolen shuttle, leaving chaos in their wake. As they rocketed towards the rebel safe house, Turner allowed himself a grim smile. They'd struck a telling blow against Zarek's regime, but he knew the real fight was only beginning. Captain Turner's team wasted no time exploiting the intelligence extracted from Malvik. Within hours, they had formulated a daring plan to strike at the heart of Zarek's military-industrial complex. "Rollins, you'll lead the assault on the plasma weapon factory," Turner briefed his second-in-command. "Grox, coordinate with the rebel bomber squadrons to hit the shipyards." Sergeant Rollins nodded grimly. "We'll gut their munitions supplies, sir." As dawn broke over Tharsis, Rollins and his strike team slipped through the factory's outer defenses. Plasma charges blew open the main gates, and human commandos poured in, their advanced weaponry cutting down the surprised guards. "Push to the core!" Rollins bellowed, leading the charge through smoke-filled corridors. They fought their way to the central fabrication chamber, planting explosive charges on critical machinery. Miles away, Grox's voice crackled over the comm as rebel bombers swooped low over Zarek's shipyards. "Payloads away! Light 'em up!" The night sky blazed as antimatter warheads detonated, vaporizing half-built warships and obliterating dry docks. The coordinated attacks left Zarek's war machine reeling, months of production and resources reduced to ash. But the Tyrant's retaliation was swift and terrible. General Krax unleashed his Citadel commandos, cyborg shock troops augmented with cutting-edge combat implants. They descended on rebel strongholds with mechanized precision, their emotionless faces masks of death. In the agrarian settlement of New Harvest, colonists screamed as Krax's troops marched through the streets. Sickly green gas billowed from canisters, neurotoxins choking the life from thousands of innocents. "They're not even pretending to target rebels anymore," Sagan snarled, watching drone footage of the massacres. "This is genocide." Turner's mind focused. "Then we make them pay." Human combat instructors drilled rebel recruits day and night, sharing hard-won expertise on resisting tyranny. Turner oversaw the distribution of advanced filtration masks and chemical warfare countermeasures to vulnerable populations. The brutality of Krax's purges backfired spectacularly. Each atrocity drove more Tharsians into open revolt. Refugee camps swelled with bitter survivors, all too eager to take up arms against their oppressors. As unrest spread like wildfire, Zarek grew desperate. He activated a terrifying superweapon, an orbital ion cannon with the power to scour entire cities from existence. The Tyrant's proclamation echoed across the system: submit or be obliterated. Turner pored over stolen schematics, tracing power conduits from the cannon to its heavily fortified reactor complex. "If we can sabotage the power supply, we'll save countless lives." Jin, a rebel slicer with extensive cybernetics knowledge, nodded. "I can bypass their security systems, but we'll need an edge to get inside." Grox grinned, mandibles clicking. "Leave that to me. I know some tunnels that ain't on any map." Under cover of darkness, Turner led his strike team through twisting maintenance shafts beneath the reactor facility. They emerged into sterile corridors, immediately engaged in vicious close-quarters combat with cyborg sentries. Plasma bolts sizzled past Turner's head as he dove for cover. He returned fire, his enhanced targeting systems finding gaps in the enemy's armor. Beside him, Rollins hurled a shock grenade, frying the neural implants of two guards. "We're running out of time," Jin shouted, fingers flying over a hacked console. "Reactors powering up." Turner and Rollins fought their way to the core, rigging explosives to critical junctions. Alarms blared as Krax's reinforcements swarmed the facility. "It's done," Rollins yelled. "This place is gonna blow." They sprinted for the exit, pursued by waves of cyborg troops. The detonation rocked the entire complex, a chain reaction turning the reactor into a miniature sun. Turner's team barely escaped as the superweapon's power supply was reduced to slag. Across Tharsis, millions watched in awe as the orbital cannon went dark, its menace extinguished. A shout of triumph rose from rebel ranks. They had thwarted Zarek's ultimate terror tactic. But in his fortress on the scoured moon, the Tyrant was far from defeated. Zarek's eyes blazed with hate as he gazed upon the holographic display of his shattered weapon. "Activate the Doomsday Protocol," he snarled to his trembling subordinates. "If I cannot rule Tharsis, no one shall." The Doomsday Protocol flickered to life on Zarek's command screens, its ominous countdown sending chills through even his most loyal subordinates. But light years away, Captain Turner and his team were already mobilizing for their most audacious offensive yet. "We hit them hard and fast," Turner briefed his assembled commanders. "Two-pronged assault, ground and space. Rollins, you'll lead the surface attack. I'll take the void." Sergeant Rollins nodded grimly, his weathered face set with willpower. "We'll breach that citadel, or die trying, sir." As Tharsis' twin moons rose over the horizon, Rollins' armored columns thundered across the barren plains towards Zarek's stronghold. Plasma artillery lit up the night sky, raining superheated death upon the advancing rebels. Automated turrets spewed streams of hypervelocity, flechettes, shredding infantry and light vehicles alike. Rollins gritted his teeth as his command tank rocked from a near miss. "Push through," he bellowed over the tactical net. "Second and third companies, flank left. We'll draw their fire." The air filled with the screech of missiles and the staccato thunder of massed drivers as rebel forces engaged Krax's Citadel commandos. Cyborg troopers advanced with inhuman precision, their augmented bodies shrugging off wounds that would fell a normal soldier. High above, Captain Turner's strike force emerged from slipspace, rebel fighters swarming from the hangar bays of the Krykron's Vengeance. "All wings, form up," Turner commanded, his targeting systems locking onto the Citadel's shimmering void shields. "Engage at will." Space lit up with weapons fire as Turner's squadrons clashed with Zarek's cyborg aces. The rebels' aging fighters were outgunned and outmaneuvered, but Turner's tactical genius evened the odds. He led his wing in a series of complex feints, drawing the enemy into a carefully laid trap. "Now!" Turner barked. Rebel fighters pounced from all angles, their concentrated fire overwhelming the superior Tharsian craft. The void shields flickered and died under the assault. "Ground team, you're clear," Turner reported. "Beginning our drop." Rebel dropships screamed through the atmosphere, Turner at the controls of the lead craft. Point defense lasers traced deadly patterns through the sky, but the captain's enhanced reflexes guided them through the gauntlet. They touched down amid the chaos of Rollins's ground assault. Turner leapt from the dropship, plasma rifle at the ready. "Secure that breach," he ordered, gesturing towards a gaping hole in the Citadel's outer wall. "Move!" Human Marines and Tharsian rebels fought side by side, pushing deeper into the fortress. Every corridor became a brutal killing ground as Zarek's forces contested each meter. Turner's enhanced senses picked out targets through the smoke and debris, his shots finding weak points in commando armor. Hours of intense fighting brought them to the upper levels of the bunker. Rollins' battered ground forces linked up with Turner's Marines, their combined strength finally overwhelming General Krax's last-ditch defense. "Captain!" Rollins called out, his voice strained. Turner turned to see his friend stumble, clutching a gaping wound in his side. "Go! I'll hold him here." Turner clasped Rollins's shoulder. "You've done your part, old friend. We'll finish this." With a handful of troops at his back, Turner fought his way to Zarek's inner sanctum. The Praetorian Guard met them in a furious melee, genetically enhanced warriors wielding monomolecular blades and energy shields. Turner's rifle was shot from his hands. He ducked under a sword strike, countering with a crushing blow to his attacker's throat. All around him, humans and rebels grappled with the Praetorians in desperate hand-to-hand combat. When the last guard fell, Turner kicked in the doors to Zarek's command center, only to find it deserted. A swirling vortex of energy marked where the Tyrant's personal battleship had made its escape. "Damn it!" Turner snarled, banging his head on a nearby console. The impact brought the systems to life, revealing the horrifying scope of Zarek's ultimate attempt, the Scoured Moon Purge Protocol. As rebel forces secured the Citadel, Turner's mind raced. They had won a great victory, but at a terrible cost. And somewhere out there, a madman with an apocalyptic weapon was on the loose. Get me a secure channel to command, Turner ordered, his eyes fixed on the protocol's command codes. We're not done yet. Turner's eyes narrowed as he studied the command codes on the screen. Jin, I need you to crack this encryption, now. The rebel slicer's fingers flew across the console, her cybernetic implants interfacing directly with the system. It's a dead man's switch, Captain. If Zarek dies, it triggers automatically. Then we don't kill him, Turner growled. We find him. Within hours, rebel intelligence pinpointed Zarek's escape vector. The Tyrant had fled to Kraxus Prime, a heavily fortified Forge world. Turner assembled his strike team, briefing them on the grim reality of their mission. If we fail, billions die, he stated flatly. Questions? Grox raised a clawed hand. Yeah. How do we get past their defenses? Jin grinned, her augmented eyes glowing. Leave that to me. The rebel frigate Shadow Dancer emerged from slipspace, its hull reconfigured to mimic a Tharzian supply vessel. Jin's voice crackled over the comms, perfectly replicating a Kraxus Prime traffic controller. Supply vessel THX-1138, you are cleared for approach. Maintain current vector. Turner held his breath as they glided past orbital defense platforms dripping with weaponry. The ruse held. As they neared the planet's surface, Turner barked orders. Prepare for combat drop! The Shadow Dancer's belly opened, disgorging a swarm of stealth pods. Turner's pods slammed into the ash-choked ground of Kraxus Prime, the impact jarring his bones despite inertial dampeners. He emerged to a world of fire and smoke. Massive forges belched toxic fumes into the ruddy sky. In the distance, the purge control bunker loomed, a fortress of obsidian and steel. Move out, Turner commanded. His strike team advanced through the industrial wasteland, engaging Zarek's security forces in brutal firefights. Plasma bolts sizzled past as Turner dove for cover behind a half-melted coolant tank. He popped up, his enhanced targeting systems painting 3 hostiles. 3 shots, 3 kills. Rollins grunted in approval. Still got it, old man. They fought their way to the bunker's perimeter, where Sagan's team split off. The alien rebel grinned, mandibles spread wide. We'll give them something to worry about. Moments later, explosions rocked a nearby munitions depot. Alarms blared as security forces rushed to contain the threat. Turner nodded to Rollins. That's our cue. They breached the bunker's outer defenses, cutting through automated turrets and cyborg troopers. The tight corridors became killing grounds as Turner's team employed their superior tactics and weaponry. A phalanx of Praetorian guards blocked their path to the control room. Turner's rifle clicked empty. We do this the hard way, he snarled, drawing a monomolecular combat knife. The melee was brutal and swift. Turner's enhanced reflexes allowed him to dance between energy blades, his own knife finding weak points in Praetorian armor. Rollins fought like a berserker, his augmented strength crushing helmets and snapping bones. When the last guard fell, they stormed the control room. Zarek stood before a massive holographic display, his eyes wild with hate. You're too late, the Tyrant shrieked. I'll see this system burn before I relinquish power. Rollins lunged for the control console, fingers flying as he worked to disable the purge protocol. Zarek laughed, holding up a small device. My vitals drop and billions die, he sneered. You can't touch me. A massive form stepped from the shadows. General Krax, more machine than man, his cybernetic body dripping with weapons. Kill them all, Zarek commanded. Krax moved with terrifying speed. His first blow sent 2 of Turner's soldiers flying, their bodies broken. The Juggernaut's arm morphed into a plasma cannon, spraying superheated death across the room. Turner dove and rolled, coming up firing. His shots sparked harmlessly off Krax's armor. Keep working, he shouted to Rollins. I'll handle this abomination. Turner's mind raced as he dodged Krax's relentless assault. The cyborg was too strong, too heavily armored for a direct confrontation. He needed to think asymmetrically. He activated his tactical HUD, scanning for weaknesses. There, a gap in the armor near the power core, but he'd need something with more punch than his sidearm to breach it. Turner's hand flew to his belt, retrieving a compact device. He lobbed it at Krax's feet. "Hey, ugly!" The cyborg turned just as the homing attack drone activated. It latched onto Krax's face, its fusion-powered drill boring into his optics. The juggernaut roared, clawing at the device. Turner seized his chance. He sprinted forward, plasma knife igniting in his hand. With all his enhanced strength, he plunged the blade into the gap in Krax's armor. The cyborg's power core overloaded, arcs of energy coursing across his frame. Krax collapsed, twitching and sparking. Turner turned to see Rollins still working furiously at the console. Zarek cowered in the corner, dead man's switch clutched in his trembling hands. "It's over," Turner growled, advancing on the Tyrant. "Drop it." Zarek's finger hovered over the trigger. "I'll do it. I swear I'll—" A plasma bolt seared through the air, vaporizing Zarek's hand and the switch with it. Turner whirled to see Sagan in the doorway, rifle smoking. "Sorry I'm late," the alien rebel quipped. Turner allowed himself a grim smile. "Cutting it a bit close, weren't you?" Rollins looked up from the console, his face pale. "Captain, we've got a problem." "Problem," Rollins announced, her face tight with tension. "The purge protocol is still active. I can't shut it down from here." Turner's blood ran cold. He grabbed Zarek by the collar, hauling the Tyrant to his feet. "Disable it! Now!" Zarek's lips curled into a sneer. "You're too late. In minutes, every inhabited world in this sector will burn." A thunderous crash interrupted them as General Krax burst through the reinforced doors, his massive cyborg frame filling the entrance. Turner's plasma bolt sparked harmlessly off the juggernaut's armor. "Sagan, get Rollins out of here!" Turner shouted, ducking under Krax's initial swing. The blow shattered a nearby console, showering the room with sparks. Turner weaved and dodged, his enhanced reflexes barely keeping him ahead of Krax's relentless assault. Each impact from the cyborg's fists left dents in the reinforced walls. "You cannot win, human," Krax's synthesized voice boomed. "Your flesh is weak." A backhanded swipe caught Turner in the ribs, sending him flying across the room. He slammed into a control panel, gasping as pain lanced through his body. Rollins' voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, I need more time." Turner's mind raced. He couldn't overpower Krax, but maybe. His eyes landed on a flashing warning light near the reactor core access. "Come on, you walking scrap heap," Turner taunted, limping towards the core chamber. "Let's dance." Krax charged after him, servos whining as the cyborg accelerated to inhuman speeds. Turner dove through the access hatch, rolling to his feet inside the cavernous reactor room. The air thrummed with impossibly strong energy. Coolant pipes snaked across the walls, feeding into the pulsing heart of the installation. Turner drew his combat knife, the blade glowing with a monomolecular edge. As Krax burst into the chamber, Turner hurled the weapon with preternatural accuracy. The knife sliced through a coolant line. Instantly, a pressurized cloud of cryogenic vapor exploded outward. The temperature plummeted as the mist enveloped both combatants. Krax's movement slowed, his joints creaking as ice crystals formed on his metallic frame. Turner's own limbs began to stiffen, his breath coming in ragged gasps. With fumbling fingers, he activated the thermal suit built into his armor. Warmth flooded his body as the suit's systems engaged. Krax lurched forward, his movements jerky and uncoordinated. "This changes nothing," the cyborg ground out. Turner's fist connected with Krax's frozen faceplate. Krax spiderwebbed across the surface. Another blow shattered it completely, exposing the organic components beneath. The human pressed his advantage, striking with precision at Krax's vulnerable joints. Brittle metal snapped under the onslaught. Krax toppled, his systems failing in the extreme cold. Turner stood over his fallen foe, chest heaving. "Rollins, status!" he barked into his comm. "Almost there," she responded. "Just need to—" "Got it. Purge protocol disabled." Relief washed over Turner, but it was short-lived. An explosion rocked the facility. "Captain, Zarek's escaped," Sagan's voice crackled through the static. "He's broadcasting some kind of message." Turner sprinted from the reactor room, leaving the broken form of Krax behind. He emerged into chaos as rebel forces stormed the complex. A nearby view screen flickered to life, showing Zarek's face contorted with rage. "You may have stopped me today," the tyrant snarled, "but this is a long way to go. I will hunt down every last one of you vermin. Your worlds will burn, your families will suffer, and—" The transmission cut off abruptly. Turner's tactical display lit up with incoming signals. Rebel fleets, Earth battle groups, and alien armadas were converging on Tharsis. "Sir," a rebel officer approached, saluting, "we're receiving reports of uprisings across Zarek's territories. His forces are in disarray." Turner nodded grimly. "Good, but Zarek's still out there, and he won't go down without a fight. Gather our forces. We end this now." As the rebels secured the facility, Turner linked up with the High Command. Reports flooded in of Zarek's atrocities, fueling the fires of rebellion. The tide had turned, but the tyrant remained at large. Days turned to weeks as a massive, coordinated hunt spread across the sector. Finally, intel pinpointed Zarek's location on Acheron, a nightmarish hive world. Turner stood on the bridge of the rebel flagship, watching as a vast allied armada dropped out of slipspace. Zarek's remaining loyalists had fortified Acheron, transforming it into a fortress world. "All ships, form up," Turner ordered. "Commence the attack." Space erupted in a firestorm as thousands of ships clashed in the void. Plasma torpedoes and mass driver rounds crisscrossed the battlefield, punctuated by the silent deaths of shattered vessels. In the heart of the maelstrom, Zarek's super dreadnought loomed. Its weapons blazed, laying waste to entire squadrons with each salvo. "There's our target," Turner growled. He turned to his assembled strike team. "We board that ship. We end this war. You all know the stakes. Let's finish what we started." Rebel dropships screamed from the hangar bays, weaving through the chaos of battle. Point defense lasers traced deadly patterns through space, but Turner's expert piloting guided them through. With a bone-jarring impact, the dropships latched onto the dreadnought's hull. Boarding charges blew, and Turner led the charge into the bowels of Zarek's flagship. The corridors became a charnel house, as rebels clashed with the remnants of Zarek's elite guard. Turner's enhanced senses picked out targets through the smoke and confusion, his shots finding weak points in Praetorian armor. "Push forward," he shouted over the din of battle. "We need to reach the reactor core." Alarms blared throughout the ship. Turner's tactical display showed the dreadnought systems going haywire. "Sir," one of his soldiers called out, "the reactor's reading critical. Zarek's trying to scuttle the ship." Turner's teeth clenched. "Double time! We're not letting that bastard take the easy way out." They fought their way deeper into the ship, Turner's squad dwindling with each engagement. By the time they reached the core, only a handful remained. The massive chamber pulsed with almost unchecked energy, and there, standing before the main control panel, was Zarek himself. The tyrant turned, his eyes wild with hate and desperation. In his hand he clutched an ancient-looking sword, its blade glowing with strange energies. "I should have killed you years ago, Turner," Zarek snarled. "I won't make that mistake again." Turner hefted his rifle, only for the power cell to sputter and die. He cast the useless weapon aside, drawing his combat knife. "It ends here, Zarek," he growled, "one way or another." With a primal roar, Zarek charged. Their blades met in a shower of sparks, the ship's alarms providing a chaotic backdrop to their deadly dance. Zarek's cybernetically enhanced strength drove Turner back. The rebel captain's armor cracked under the relentless assault. "I am the future," Zarek raved, his sword carving furrows in the deck plating. "You're nothing but an obsolete relic." Turner's breath came in ragged gasps. His enhanced body was pushed to its limits, every movement a symphony of pain. But as Zarek raised his sword for a killing blow, the ship lurched violently. The tyrant stumbled, thrown off balance by the sudden movement. Turner saw his opening. With a final surge of strength, he lunged forward. His knife plunged deep into Zarek's chest, the monomolecular blade slicing through armor and augmented flesh alike. Zarek's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. The sword slipped from his fingers, clattering to the deck. It's over, Turner panted. You lose. The dreadnought shuddered again, more violently this time. Warning klaxons shrieked as the reactor core began to destabilize. Turner staggered away from Zarek's fallen form, keying his comm. This is Turner. Zarek is down. All units, evacuate immediately. He sprinted from the core chamber, his remaining soldiers close behind. The ship's corridors were a maze of twisted metal and electrical fires. An explosion rocked the vessel, nearly knocking Turner off his feet. He could feel the heat of the impending reactor breach, even through his armor. There! One of his troops shouted. Escape pods! They piled into the cramped capsule, Turner punching the launch controls. With a violent jolt, the pod blasted free of the dying dreadnought. Through the pod's viewport, Turner watched as Zarek's flagship detonated in a silent explosion. Flash of nuclear fire. The shockwave buffeted their escape pod, sending it tumbling through the debris field. Turner gripped the safety harness, his enhanced physiology barely keeping him conscious as G-forces threatened to black him out. Through the viewport, he watched the remnants of Zarek's fleet disintegrate under the combined firepower of the rebel armada. We did it, he breathed, allowing himself a moment of relief. The following weeks passed in a blur of activity. As the dust settled, a provisional government formed from the alliance of rebel factions. Turner found himself thrust into the spotlight, hailed as a hero alongside alien comrades like Sagan. He stood on a balcony overlooking the sprawling metropolis of New Terminus, watching as citizens celebrated in the streets below. The scars of war were still visible, but hope blossomed amidst the ruins. Sagan approached, his tentacles rippling with subdued colors. The humans have a saying, don't they? Don't count your chickens before they hatch? Turner's brow furrowed. What are you getting at? Before Sagan could respond, alarms blared across the city. The sky lit up with fiery streaks as unidentified ships punched through the atmosphere. Perimeter breach, a voice shouted over the comm. Unknown forces landing in sectors 7 through 12. Turner's combat instincts kicked in. He sprinted for the armory, Sagan close behind. This is Turner, he barked into his comm. All squads gear up and rendezvous at Command Post Alpha. We're under attack. The streets devolved into chaos as civilians fled for shelter. Turner led his human squad through the pandemonium, plasma rifles at the ready. A massive explosion rocked the ground. Turner looked up to see the central command spire engulfed in flames, its upper levels collapsing. Slicer Jin, what's our status? Turner demanded. Static crackled, then Jin's voice came through. Bad, Captain. They've taken out our primary defenses. I'm trying to establish an emergency uplink, but... Her words were cut off by the whine of incoming fire. Turner dove for cover as energy bolts seared the air above him. Through the smoke, he caught his first glimpse of the attackers. Cyborg mercenaries advanced in perfect formation, their augmented bodies overflowing with weapons. Push them back, Turner shouted, returning fire. His squad spread out, taking advantage of cover. The battle raged for hours, block by block. Turner's enhanced reflexes were pushed to their limits as he ducked, rolled, and fired. But for every cyborg they took down, 2 more seemed to take its place. A rebel courier reached their position, breathless. Captain Turner, we've ID'd the attackers. It's Underlord Krask, Zarek's old ally. He's seized control of the orbital platforms. Turner's blood ran cold. Krask had been a shadowy figure, always lurking on the fringes of Zarek's empire. Now he was making his move. We need reinforcements, Turner growled. Get me a line to... The sky erupted in light. Turner's visor automatically polarized as a searing beam lanced down from orbit, carving a molten furrow through the city's industrial sector. Gamma weapon, Sagan shouted. He'll glass the entire planet. Turner's mind raced. They couldn't win this fight on the ground, not with that kind of firepower raining down from above. He keyed his comm. This is Captain Turner to all Allied forces. Fall back to emergency rendezvous points. Prepare for immediate evac. As his team retreated through burning streets, Turner's gaze locked onto Krask's flagship looming in the sky. He knew what had to be done. Slicer Jin, he called. I need our best infiltration teams. And get me Admiral Pierce. We're taking this fight to Krask himself. Turner's eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. The gamma weapon loomed over them, a sword of Damocles ready to cleave the planet in two. But Turner knew the true threat lay elsewhere. Jin, get me Admiral Pierce, he barked into his comm. Tell him about the gamma weapon. His fleet needs to take it out. What about us, sir? Asked Grox, the stocky alien's scales rippling with anticipation. Turner hefted his rifle. We're going after Krask. They fought their way through the station's corridors, Turner's enhanced reflexes guiding his aim as he dropped cyborg after cyborg. Sagan moved like liquid shadow, tentacles lashing out with deadly precision. The command deck doors loomed before them. Turner nodded to Grox, who planted breaching charges. The explosion rocked the station, and they surged through the smoke. Krask stood at the center of the room, a cruel smile twisting his features. Captain Turner. How predictable. Turner's rifle snapped up, but Krask raised a hand. I wouldn't if I were you. He tapped a device on his wrist. Dead man's switch. You kill me, and Terminus burns. Tension crackled in the air. Turner's mind raced, searching for options. Suddenly, Jin's voice crackled over the comm. Captain, I've hacked his systems. It's a bluff. He's planning to escape with a fortune in loot. The Gamma Strike is just a distraction. Krask's composure shattered. With a snarl of rage, he lunged for a nearby console. Chaos erupted as Turner's team engaged the Warlord's guards. In the melee, Krask's cybernetic arm lashed out, catching Sagan across his midsection. The alien went down hard, ichor spilling from the wound. Sagan! Turner shouted, but there was no time. Krask was making a break for an armored shuttle. Grox's massive form slammed into the Warlord, pinning him against the bulkhead. Got him, Captain! The station shuddered as Earth's fleet opened fire on the gamma weapon. Explosions bloomed in the void of space. Turner stood over the captured Krask, his finger tightening on the trigger. But he hesitated. This monster had to face justice. Real justice, if they were ever going to break the cycle of tyranny. Cuff him, Turner ordered. We're taking him in. They dragged Krask aboard the rebel flagship Krykron's Vengeance, but their victory was short-lived. A splinter group of Krask's forces, led by the fanatical cyborg Admiral Arkan, refused to stand down. Rebel ships clashed with Arkan's renegades. In the chaos, a stray missile struck the Krykron's bridge. Turner watched in horror as Admiral Dre and much of the rebel leadership were vaporized in an instant. The bridge crew looked to Turner, shell-shocked. He straightened, pushing down his own shock and grief. All ships, this is Captain Turner, he said, his voice steady. Form up on me. We're going after Arkan. The space around Terminus became a killing field as Turner led the assault on Arkan's dreadnought. Fighters danced between capital ships, energy weapons painting the void with deadly light. Boarding teams, go! Turner ordered as they pulled alongside the massive vessel. He led the charge himself, cutting through Arkan's cybernetically enhanced troops. They fought their way to the bridge, where the rogue admiral made his last stand. Arkan sneered at Turner through a haze of smoke and sparks. You think this changes anything? The strong will always rule. Turner's response was a plasma bolt through Arkan's primary power core. In the aftermath, Turner found himself thrust into a position he'd never wanted. With most of the rebel leadership gone, the surviving council members looked to him to negotiate the armistice and guide them through the transition to self-rule. He stood on the observation deck, watching as Terminus slowly began to heal. A presence at his side drew his attention. Sagan, you should be resting, he said, noting the alien's bandaged midsection. Sagan's skin rippled with muted colors. There is little time for rest, my friend. I fear my injuries are terminal. Turner's chest tightened. There has to be something we can do. Sagan's tentacle brushed Turner's arm. You have done more than enough, but I must ask one last favor. My successor on the council, it must be Karen. Turner nodded, knowing the weight of Sagan's request. As the days passed, new challenges arose. Rollins and Karen worked tirelessly on reconstruction efforts, a spark growing between them. But factions within the alliance already showed signs of discord, and Turner knew that opportunists beyond their borders would be watching for any sign of weakness. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Turner's muscles ached as he surveyed the aftermath of their hard-won victory. The scars of battle marred Terminus's skyline, but already he could see signs of rebuilding. His comm unit chirped. "Captain, we need you in the council chambers." Rollins' voice came through, tense and urgent. Turner strode into the makeshift government building, where representatives from a dozen species argued in a cacophony of translator-assisted voices. At the center stood Ruktor, a hulking Vargan with iridescent scales and 4 powerful arms. "Humans have no right to dictate our future," Ruktor bellowed, slamming a fist on the table. "We fought and bled alongside you, only to trade one tyrant for another?" "That's not what we're proposing," Turner countered, stepping forward. "The coalition is meant to give all species an equal voice." Ruktor's eyes narrowed. "Pretty words, human, but actions speak louder." The debate raged for hours, with Turner and his allies struggling to keep the fragile peace intact. As the session adjourned, Karen approached him, her antennae twitching with concern. "This isn't over," she warned. "Ruktor's building support among the outer colonies." Turner nodded grimly. "Keep tabs on him. We can't afford another war." Days later, alarms blared across the command center. Turner rushed to the main display, where a holomap showed a red cluster of ships converging on a frontier world. "Ruktor's made his move," Rollins reported. "He's seized control of Novus Prime. 2 million civilians held hostage." Turner's lips pursed. "Scramble the fleet. We need to contain this before it spreads." The Earth Force battle group dropped out of hyperspace near Novus Prime, facing off against Ruktor's hodgepodge armada. Turner stood on the bridge of the flagship, weighing his options. "Sir, we're being hailed," the comms officer announced. Ruktor's face filled the view screen, mandibles clicking in agitation. "Back off, Turner. This is your only warning. We will no longer submit to human rule." "You're making a mistake, Ruktor," Turner replied evenly. "Let's talk this out before more blood is shed." But Ruktor cut the transmission. Tense hours stretched into days as the standoff continued. On the planet below, unrest grew as separatist propaganda spread through the population. Turner paced the bridge, feeling the weight of every life in the balance. A report from Jin caught his attention. Chatter about a prison break at the maximum security facility where they'd incarcerated Krask. Before he could process the implications, proximity alarms howled. A massive ship dropped out of hyperspace. Krask's dreadnought, long thought destroyed. "All ships, battle stations!" Turner barked. The void erupted in weapons fire as Krask's forces joined Ruktor's separatists. Turner's quick thinking and superior tactics kept them at bay, but he knew they couldn't hold out forever. A priority transmission came through from the planet's surface. It was Rollins, her face streaked with grime and sweat. "Turner, we've got a situation down here. Krask's deployed some kind of cyborg super soldiers. They're tearing through our defenses." Turner's mind raced. "Jin, can you hack their neural networks?" The slicer's fingers flew across her console. "I'm working on it, but their encryption is like nothing I've seen before." As the battle raged in space and on the ground, Turner received word that Grox was leading a strike team to retake a vital power refinery. He watched the tactical display with growing dread as Grox's life signs winked out one by one. "Grox, status report," Turner demanded over the comm. Static crackled, then a weak voice came through. "We've secured the objective, Captain, but I don't think I'm making it out of this one." Turner's fists clenched at his sides. "Hold on, soldier. We're coming for you." But even as he spoke, he knew it was too late. Another light on the display went dark, and with it, a piece of Turner's heart. The tide began to turn when Jin finally cracked the cyborg's defenses. "I'm in," she shouted triumphantly. "Overriding their control nodes now." On the planet's surface, Krask's unstoppable soldiers suddenly turned on each other in confusion. The rebels seized their chance, pushing back against the separatist forces. Turner led a boarding party onto Krask's dreadnought, fighting their way through twisting corridors toward the bridge. They found the warlord wild-eyed and desperate, his fingers hovering over a detonator. "It's over, Kresk," Turner said, leveling his weapon. Kresk sneered. "If I can't rule this system, no one will." He slammed his hand down on the controls. Warning klaxons blared as the ship's antimatter reactor began to overload. Turner's blood ran cold as he realized the destruction would take out not just the dreadnought, but the entire inhabited system. "Evacuate the ship," he ordered his team. "I'll handle this." As his soldiers retreated, Turner raced toward the reactor core. He knew what had to be done. A manual release of the antimatter fuel into space could avert catastrophe, but whoever initiated the procedure wouldn't survive. Turner's comm crackled to life. It was Rollins, her voice thick with emotion. "Don't do this," she pleaded. "There has to be another way." "There isn't time," Turner replied, his voice steady despite the fear gripping his heart. "Promise me you'll see this through. Build the coalition we fought for." "I promise," Rollins whispered. Turner reached the reactor control room. His enhanced reflexes guided his hands as he input the override codes. A hiss of escaping atmosphere told him the process had begun. As antimatter streamed into the void, Turner closed his eyes. His last thoughts were of the future he'd fought so hard to secure, a future he would never see. The dreadnought erupted in a blinding flash. The antimatter safely dispersed. In its wake, an uneasy quiet settled over the Tharsis system. Rollins stood before the newly formed governing council, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. "We've paid a terrible price for peace," she began, "but we cannot let that sacrifice be in vain." She locked eyes with Karen, seeing in the alien's gaze a reflection of her own willpower. Together they would forge a new path, one of cooperation, understanding, and shared prosperity. But even as hope blossomed in the Tharsis systems, shadows gathered at the edges of known space. New threats lurked in the darkness between the stars, waiting for their moment to strike. The battle for the future of the galaxy was just getting started.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.